Hi, we're going to take a look at a sentiment analysis tool that I created as a proof of concept. The first thing we're going to take a look at, this is the list of articles that are stored in a Postgre database from The Guardian. And you can see that the articles have dates and titles, and the sentiment analysis goes through and determines whether the stock price for NVIDIA is likely to go up or not. So in this case, it was using the default Hugging Face model, and it would deliver a sentiment score. And then a large language model was used to determine whether it was a hold, a strong buy, or a buy. So two separate types of sentiment analysis. The first was a classification regime using ChatGPT, and the other was sentiment analysis using Hugging Face. The next step after collecting the data was to analyze the data. So in this case, one of the first things that I wanted to look at was the relationship between the stock price and the time for the period that I was evaluating. And over this case, the blue line represents the stock price, and it has a general positive correlation over time, starting at around $100, then going up by about $1 a day. The R squared is 0.8, which is pretty strong, and the P score is very, very small, making this statistically significant and positive. The sentiment analysis, however, didn't lend itself to such a good model. I created a signed sentiment by taking whether the feedback was positive or negative and then the probability from Hugging Face. And we can see that they tended to be extreme. There wasn't as much in the middle, which was surprising. The model kind of builds slowly over time, but that model's not very significant. I used a similar thing with a machine learning model to do some logistic regression on whether it would go up the next day or not. And the predictions are here and the actual results are in blue. And we can see that, again, it's not great. The model was accurate about 57% of the time. The next step was to use a logistic regression model to determine whether the price would go up or down. This is the base model, and it used only the NVIDIA recommendations. And in this case, it predicted down and the market went down 24 times, and it predicted down and the market went up 21 times. And it never predicted that the market would go up, which was really interesting outcome. And that was largely because of the relationship between how the articles were reviewed and how the stock performed. I was curious, so I wanted to make this model more nuanced. So I added a volatility index and then built a model around a strong buy from the large language model and then low volatility. And when that model was run using a decision tree, we got much better predictions. And it also made some predictions about the stock going up. So overall, it wasn't a huge improvement, but this is at least a proof of concept of how to collect data from an API, in this case, The Guardian, how to process the analysis of that document using both Hugging Face and a large language model for classification, and then how to use machine learning models like a decision tree to go through and see if the sentiment analysis and, or in this case, the classification scheme with some additional variables had predictive value.